From the campus of the University of Nebraska at Omaha, consider this with Kathy Wyatt, a program of issues and information behind today's news.
The innovation piece of this is just critically important. We talk about it all over the state. You mentioned 30,000 units. Well, those kinds of needs exist all across the state of Nebraska. And we can't get to those kind of numbers doing the same old thing over and over. We can't get there by putting 2% more into the same things. We're going to have to be innovative. We're going to have to think differently about the financing pieces, the building technique pieces, all of that. And you see a manifestation of that right here on this piece of ground.
Hi everyone, I'm Kathy Wyatt. Welcome to the 28th season and this week's edition of Consider This. Our topic, an aging-ready housing catalog. Joining us to talk more about it are Jessica Sherman, founder and executive director for Partners of Livable Omaha, and Jeffrey Day, professor in the College of Architecture at the University of Nebraska, Lincoln. Thank you both so much for being here, and welcome, or should I say, welcome back.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. You bet, you bet. Jessica, I want to start with you and who that person was in the opening video.
That was the former director of the Department of Economic Development for the state of Nebraska, who attended our groundbreaking on behalf of the governor.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. We have a photo we're putting up for our viewers. So tell us, why were these people here?
Sure. We are in the middle of constructing two houses that are part of our story small houses system, and they're under construction in the Benson neighborhood in Omaha.
Okay. Tell us the story behind our story.
Sure. We are about a year into our story. Jeff and I have collaborated on and off over the past decade, and our organization, Partners for Livable Omaha, and the College of Architecture seek to address issues in livability, and we take a design approach, and we look for innovation, and we are very interested in working with young architects and nurturing their careers. And the challenge that I brought to Jeff about a year ago was addressing the lack of senior or aging-ready housing in the Omaha Metro. This began an adventure in which we've uncovered housing challenges that are relevant for the entire state.
Okay, and when you say aging ready, what do you mean by that?
I'm really interested in aging in place and this concept of how do we keep older adults living in the communities where they are from for as long as possible. And housing and sort of the physical characteristics of our housing are such an issue for older adults and keeping them in their communities. And part of the solution to that is in design and in how we think about how homes are put together to allow older adults to stay for as long as possible in their communities.
Okay, and Jeff, you're in the middle of that right now. We're going to talk quite a bit about these prototypes in just a few minutes, but first I want to go to photos of the actual neighborhood where you've decided that these are going to go. Give us a little bit of history in terms of the neighborhood that you've selected.
Yeah, well, we're working in the Benson neighborhood, as Jessica mentioned, which is in north central Omaha. It's a historic neighborhood. It was once a sort of independent town. It was absorbed by the city of Omaha as it expanded. There are a lot of smaller homes in the neighborhood, ranging from late 19th century up to fairly recent construction, and some vacant lots here and there. And it's a very mixed neighborhood of people of different ages and economic situations. So it's a great place to expand the city of Omaha within its own limits.
Okay, so again, talk a little bit about, we're going to talk in a minute about the neighborhoods and how you selected it, but can you drill down a little bit in terms of, this is in Omaha, what are the intersections, so if people are wanting to maybe go and swing by, talk about that a little bit.
Great question. It's very close to the Benson sort of entertainment district on Maple Street. It's just one block off of that, right at the corner of 58th Street and Corby. That's where our property is that we're developing. We secured a single lot and we split it into 2 independent properties for the 2 homes that we're building.
Okay. We would not have a program on this if we did not talk about the student involvement, right? And there was an internship program developed in the School of Architecture. Talk about the student involvement. We have another photo we can put up of the stars of our show here.
Definitely. And they're the leaders of this project in many ways in terms of its design and construction. But I run a design build studio, which is a program where graduate students in architecture work on real projects for real clients in real neighborhoods and get involved in their construction. We don't build everything, but we build parts of those projects. And so this began with Jessica's sort of interest in sort of exploring the issue of aging-ready housing. We brought that to the students. We explained to them that what we're going to do is explore housing at the intersection of design, finance, and policy. Not just think about the design side, but also thinking it's simultaneously how we finance these homes and how they fit into the zoning and housing policies in the city and around the state. The studio worked on that project throughout the year. We finished that, began construction. We're now in the middle of construction, you could say. We're starting to work on the site work. And we've started an internship program to extend the student role. And this is funded by the AIA, American Institute of Architects, and the AARP through a pair of grants that fund the students that we've hired. We've hired some of the graduating students to work on the project.
Okay, and Jessica, you know a little bit about this grant, I understand.
Sure.
What does it take to get something like that from point A to point B as successfully as you obviously did?
You know, we build relationships all year round with stakeholders, and the philanthropic community is always at the table. You know, we're always looking for opportunities, and so when the semester first began a year ago, we brought in AARP Nebraska's state representative. He was able to come to the classroom, engage with the students, provide a sounding board for the direction. And so building those relationships early are key. And Jeff's involvement in AIA brought that opportunity to my attention. And we're very strategic about building these relationships because it's a team sport. And I think everyone who works in housing understands that it's a team sport. And it's a very, you know, collaborative process. You know, that's something very beautiful about housing.
Okay, all right, well, beautiful about housing is a great segue because we're going to put up another photo. People probably wondering, and rightly so, what these prototypes look like. So we'll put up a photo. And Jeff, as we do that, what are we looking at here?
We're looking at 2 homes. One on the left, the sort of reddish house, is about 802 square feet, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, living area, parking area for 1 car. The other home is about 618 square feet. It's a 1 bedroom, has the identical kitchen and bathroom as the other house, and it sits in the part of this subdivided property that we created.
Okay, let's go inside. Did you call that first one red or orange or reddish?
I call it terracotta, but it's
terracotta.
It is a sort of a reddish tone.
Okay,
but
let's
brick
go.
red.
Let's go inside that house, Jeff. We're going to do that right now, so that folks can see. Talk about this from your perspective.
So we sought to find ways to dignify the small house, to create lofty and really exciting, bright environments in what's a fairly small residence. There's prefabricated cabinetry. The students built much of this, so the black in the kitchen and then this sort of blue cabinet that separates the bedrooms from the living area is also built by the students. The floors are polished concrete, which is affordable because that's also part of the foundation system, but a really modern look. Windows are, very energy efficient, fiberglass windows. The walls and the roof of this are built out of structural insulated panels, which is a pre-manufactured system that's very highly efficient in terms of energy and insulation, and it's the way it performs environmentally.
Wow, and this is the larger one. Tell us again the square footage?
The larger one is 802 square feet.
Love that. Okay, and that's the larger one.
That's the larger
so,
one.
and that one is sold, correct?
It is.
Okay, so that one is already spoken for. All right, the next question I do want to ask, we have in the housing world right now, the prices are very, very high for houses. So I first of all want you to talk about what you actually sold it for, right? And how it is that they can be so cost effective.
Well, we've worked with funders who have provided forgivable construction loans so that we can reduce the cost. Actually, we're selling it for less than the cost to build the home, about $190,000 for the larger one, which is fits into sort of a workforce development middle income budget for this part of the state. And the loan allows us to build a very high quality house that will perform well and be so energy efficient it'll save the owner a lot of money in the long term.
Okay, now we're going to go to the smaller one. What's the square footage on that one?
It's 618 square feet, and it's a one bedroom.
Okay, 618. We're going to put up photos now for our viewers here just to kind of take a look at the difference that a couple hundred square feet can make. Here we go, Jeff.
Yeah, so in this one, the cabinetry, it's orange in this case, but it's really the same kit of parts that we used in the other house. So the same elements are just recomposed in different ways and finished in a different color. The kitchen is very similar. It's almost identical. Same with the bathroom. Same finishes. The floor, the walls are all almost identical. It's just smaller. It's a one bedroom. In this case, we have a Murphy bed, which is a bed that folds out of a wall, so it's in a cabinet. That just allows the homeowner to open up the space more during the day if they want to use it as an office as well as a residence.
Wow, and that one is currently for sale.
Yes.
Right, but we want our viewers to know the ground is still what the ground is. We haven't actually started building yet, but you are looking for buyers for these.
We are. However, we have started building in the sense that we've prefabricated all the cabinetry. So that's all built and in storage. And the structural insulated panels are in production right now in a factory. So if you go to the site now, you're going to see not a lot, but it'll all come together very quickly.
I have to ask, because when people are looking at building a new home, sometimes they arrive at the scene when it's almost done, but they're there in time to be able to do some things that they want to do with the house. Is there any leniency here? I mean, like, could somebody come in and say, I'm really interested in that house, but could we do this with the countertops instead, or can we do, or is that pretty much set?
Not in terms of the bathroom and the kitchen area, and the storage components are prefabricated. Someone can obviously modify them after they purchase the home, but window coverings are up to the owner, and of course furnishings are by the owner. So we really chose to make the houses sort of ready to use, ready to wear, so to speak, as soon as one moved in. But they personalize it with their stuff. So the storage cabinet really became a way to highlight personal objects so that people can, make these houses their own, but they don't need to do any work, and they don't need to make a whole lot of decisions in terms of materials and finishes.
So how is the life expectancy of a house like this different than your modern day home?
Well, I think these houses, I would say, are being built at a much higher level of quality than what you would normally find for houses at this budget level. They're really well built, and I think they'll last a very long time. They'll be very tight houses, so they'll perform very well in terms of energy efficiency and environmental controls within the house, make it more affordable for someone to live there. An aging someone at the senior level could live there, for the rest of their life.
Okay, so no basement.
No basement.
So no garage.
No garages.
So storage in a place, and anybody who's ever watched Tiny House Nation really fully understands that it's pretty limited and pretty minimal, but practical and kind of cool. So for people who are saying, where would I put any extra stuff, what would you tell them?
Well, both houses and the other iterations of the project that we're going to be documenting in our catalog have a loft, which has some mechanical equipment, but there's room for storage. So if you have like a reusable Christmas tree, you could stick it up in that loft and bring it down every year. Yeah, there's not a lot of room. And these are really homes for people who want to downsize somewhat. But there's a lot of efficient ways of managing your stuff within the small footprint. There's no wasted space in these homes, let's say.
I was going to say, Jessica, that goes back to what you were talking about earlier, aging friendly. I mean, that is what it's all about. It's all about downsizing and reducing your stuff and making living that much more enjoyable. You're not having to worry about all of what you're eventually likely going to give away anyway. All right, so I want to change gears a little bit. Nice, bright colors on those homes, but as I was looking around the neighborhood, I didn't see quite as much brightness. So talk about how you are intentionally incorporating these modern day, and some might go so far as to say industrial looking homes, into very, very well established neighborhoods. And I'll start with either one of you. Who would like to?
I'll go. I live 4 houses away from this development, so I am also a neighbor, and I hear directly the concerns of the neighborhood when I walk my dog. And some people love that they look different. I think at first glance, people might be surprised, right? But when you walk around Benson, you're in a creative district, and you're frequently interacting with murals, you're interacting with old brickwork, you're interacting with old churches. It is a extremely eclectic neighborhood, and you just gotta keep walking and you'll hit the next blue house, you'll hit the next terracotta house. And so at first glance, the block that it's on does have a lot of white and beige houses, but the houses catty corner are blue. You really just have to zoom out, and you have to be curious and open to understand that it is perfectly integrated into the color scheme of the neighborhood. It may not look like the house next door, but it fits the fabric.
I had a question as you were talking, Jessica. This whole idea, and I'll go back to Tiny House Nation, where some of these houses can be pulled by a truck. If somebody were to purchase one of these homes and they were to say, I'd like to move it somewhere, possible? No.
Now, these homes are built in place. They have concrete foundations, concrete floors that anchor them in place. So they're really not movable. Sure, you could get some tools and dismantle the house like any project, but they're not like a tiny home or a trailer home that is built as a floating box, essentially. These are built into the ground. They're very safe, they're anchored, so from the point of view of wind, storms, these homes are quite safe. The bathroom acts as a storm shelter. So they're not movable, but they are, they're small and very efficient.
Okay.
So,
something coming to mind now, especially for those who really see the value of bridging the generations. I'm curious as to what our younger population, I'm not trying to stereotype, but I would imagine most of the college students are much younger. What type of feedback you get, Jeff, when you're working with them on this project? And we're hearing Jessica talking about aging friendly, right? I would imagine their perspective changes quite a bit after working on a project like this in terms of how they envision their life going forward. Do any interactions come to mind when I mention something like that?
Yeah, well, I think the students were really excited to work on a project that serves a certain community. It serves the aging ready population, but it's equally appealing to younger first-time home buyers. Like these students were graduate students. They're heading out in the world into professional practice, and probably will want to buy homes, and some of them might end up in a place like this. So it appeals to a wide range of people. We didn't want to make homes that look like they're for people in their 70s or 80s, but they can accommodate people who might have mobility problems or just general sort of a need to kind of simplify their life a little bit. But at the same time, it's, as Jessica mentioned, it's in a creative arts district and could really work well for younger folks as well.
Very cool. Jessica, talk to us about, and I'm sure you had to think of a few when you were writing the grant, benefits to community. So we put 2 prototypes in a neighborhood like this. What are the benefits?
I mean, I think the largest benefit that I think the American culture should recognize is that older adults need to remain in their communities for as long as possible. And if they're housing in these historic neighborhoods, you have a lot of people who are in their 60s, 70s, and 80s occupying homes that are simply too large and don't match their needs. You don't want those individuals to leave that neighborhood. The type of isolation that they will experience, the disruption to their quality of life is enormous when those individuals are gone. They need to stay, and they need housing that fits their needs. So I think if there is one takeaway, it's that older adults are an asset to any neighborhood. They keep the pulse of the community. And that's the number one message that we want to deliver. On the flip side of that, there are a ton of people who are priced out of these neighborhoods that are couples or singles or small families, and they don't necessarily have a clear entry point into their first home. So we're addressing two issues. How do younger people build equity? How do they get involved in home ownership when the cost of housing is just so high? And on the flip side, how do these older adults remain where they need to be in their final years? The economic profile of those generations is somewhat similar. The younger generation, they will be building wealth, but they're limited when they're starting out. The older generation, they're limited too. They're out of the workforce, they're on fixed incomes. So you're sort of dealing with this problem that is addressing two very different populations. And when we were working with the students, I asked them frequently, would you live here? And they would have to raise their hand to say yes or no. And if their hand didn't go up, then we would say, why? Why wouldn't you live here? One student said, I'm a drummer. And I need to put my drums somewhere. This house isn't large enough for me. Or, I'm already married and planning to have a family. So we understand that the size of the house itself may not fit everyone's need, but there is so much demand in both of those markets, and the aging population is only getting larger. And the homes that they may be leaving to move into something smaller, it's like musical chairs, right? You need to open up that larger home, but you do not want to displace that older adult from their neighborhood.
We have less than 5 minutes remaining. I want to talk about the catalog.
Okay.
So please tell us,
Sure.
broad strokes, what is that?
So it became very clear to us that we were developing something within academia that had statewide relevancy. There are rural communities that are dealing with labor shortages when they're addressing housing. You have communities like Omaha that are experiencing a resurgence of interest in gentle density, and how does their zoning, how do you modify to use existing infrastructure and sort of fix the social fabric and the built fabric of these older neighborhoods. And Jeff and I worked with NYFA, the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority, which put us into contact with housing advocates from across the state, and we understood that this is a statewide team sport, right? And so when you start to engage with young people, architects, and sort of their openness to innovation, and thought leaders like Jeff, who are incredibly open to innovation, you realize that you're building thought leadership for your entire state. And the students simply had, I won't say too many ideas, but they have an abundance of ideas. I mean, they're iterating. And we didn't want to lose that information. And we wanted to push this entire project into a direction where any home buyer who's wanting to build an accessory dwelling, or any developer at any scale, whether you're emerging or you've built your 5th apartment building, you know, this is a product and this is a housing system that can be made very simple for people to shop, you know, and to purchase and to find ways to bring into their own developments. And the catalog for us is a way to show all these viable iterations and to help set design standards for what our story as a brand looks like. But more importantly to that, how do I get one, right?
Yeah.
How do I get this in my backyard or in the lot next door or in a configuration that makes sense for whatever that developer is attempting to accomplish? And I was always inspired, and this is a little bit nerdy, but the Sears catalog, you know.
Yeah.
And I have friends who live in houses that were from the Sears catalog. There are ways of disseminating housing that we have maybe forgotten, right? And it's a simple way to scale this. We as the developer are not the only ones who can build this. Holy Name Housing Corporation is not the only builders who can build this. Spark Capital is not the only financer of this. This is about equity of opportunity, and this is about scalability outside of our partnership. That is why we needed a catalog.
Wow, talking about aging ready housing catalogs today with Jessica Sherman and Jeff Day. This sounds so exciting. All right, folks, wanting more information, we do have some graphics that we're going to put up here in case you're wondering. Instagram at Livable Omaha and Livable Omaha, or just livable.org, 402-200-4924, or architecture.unl.edu, 402-472-9212. I want to thank you both for joining us and wish you the very best with this exciting project moving forward.
Thank you.
You bet. Thanks to the students who are working so hard behind the scenes, and to all of you for watching. We will see you next week.
Consider This is an issues and information program produced by UNO Television in the School of Communication. More information and program archives can be found at nebraskapublicmedia.org/considerthis. If you'd like to share your comments about this program, call the UNO School of Communication at 402-554-2600 during regular business hours, or send an email to cwyatt@unomaha.edu.